Welcome in, everybody. I am Chris Landry, and this is ACC Football and Beyond as we take you around the league, team by team, game by game from this past week, give you all the latest news and notes of what's going on. How do the teams stack up in the film room? Take a look at this week's schedule, and probably most importantly, interact with you. We want your involvement. I want you to join us in the chat room. Very simple. Go to twitch.tv/Chris Landry Football. Very simple to join, very easy to join. Join us in the chat room. Tell us what you think. Ask questions. We'll get right after it. Had a great session last hour with Big Ten football. A lot of interaction inside the chat room. A lot of Big Ten questions, and even one that was outside the Big Ten. That's great, too. It's Big Ten, ACC, SEC, and beyond. So we'll take you beyond that. So got a lot to get to today. It was let's just call it another interesting weekend for the league. We've got some news and notes we're going to get to. Take a look at this week's schedule. Go inside the mailbag again and tell you what things are looking like. Some headline news around the league, if you haven't heard, Will Shipley, who we talked about, didn't we, all summer at LandryFootball.com. And by the way, if you haven't joined LandryFootball.com, what are you waiting for? My goodness, we're almost a quarter into the season. Just think about what you've missed already. What a great resource to get film breakdowns of all the teams, all the games. We recap and review the games inside the film room. We down the upcoming games coming up. So you just got to join us. Trust me, over at LandryFootball.com. You can get more detail than we're able to do here during the show. But we told you all summer in our notebook section and our previews, look out for Will Shipley. He's going to be the team's future running back. Well, the future is now. He's been working behind Kobe Pace and Lynn J. Dixon, and Lynn J. Dixon is transferring. You could see this coming from a mile away. He was basically beaten out, so he's moving on, and they go to the transfer portal. But tough news on the defensive side. The sophomore defensive tackle, Tyler Davis, who's outstanding, is going to have bicep surgery out 6 to 7 weeks. And this Brent Venables defense has kept them alive here. There's no question that this Clemson team is hurting on offense. They are not getting any push at the line, struggling. They can't run the foot on Tuesday. So by the time you hear this, as we do this show live, and we do this show live every Tuesday at 1 p.m. Central Time, by the time you listen to it as a podcast, you might have the answer over at LandryFootball.com. We've got some news and notes of what's going on at Wake Forest and some of the successes they're having there. Take you around a lot of what happened in a big weekend of football in the ACC. So let's get right to it, shall we? Let's go through the games, and we're going to start with the first game that took place, the Louisville Cardinals holding on to beat Central Florida. It wasn't a big weekend for the ACC. Maybe one of the few bright spots was Louisville. They stole the game from Central Florida at a 66-yard pick six with 13 seconds left. It was a crazy go-nuts game. And it was a tough loss for UCF, future Big 12 team. But Louisville was a team that hadn't looked all that good. And yet they were able to get it done. Through the early goings of the season, I see some major concerns on the offensive side of the ball. Against Ole Miss and Eastern Kentucky, got off to slow starts. This offensive line that was expected to be pretty good struggled to generate push. The running game is not having a lot of success. They're not being overly creative. I think they're trying to work it and trying to toughen it up a little bit, but they got a young, inexperienced receiving core. They and Malik Cunningham's not getting in sync all that well. So it was a Friday night matchup, and it was maybe the most exciting game of the weekend. It was a big-time performance from Malik Cunningham. I thought he was outstanding. And I did think they got more out of the passing game than they normally would, but that's Central Florida. That's their defense, not really good. I thought the running game was pretty good. The run defense of UCF has been pretty good. I thought Jalen Mitchell did a really good job showing some good cuts in the open field. So congrats for Louisville on a nice win. Again, you got any questions, comments, we certainly want to take them in the mailbag section at the towards the end of the show. Michigan State put the hammer down on Miami. It's not looking good for Miami. It's not looking good for Manny Diaz. It was a dominant performance in a blowout against Bama. They escaped, and that's how I would describe it, escaped against Appalachian State. They got blown out by Sparty. Derek King, as we mentioned, has got shoulder issues. They're off to a 1-2 start, and they really haven't looked good at any point during the year other than just a few stretches. They can't find a rhythm on offense. Certainly couldn't do it against Michigan State. Michigan State did a good job of making them work their way down the field, and they couldn't do it. Miami took a 7-3 lead, second quarter, and not a real clean game, missed field goals. Michigan State comes back, takes the lead, and that's it. I mean, King was, at the halftime, was 22-29, 236, and one touchdown, one interception. Rambo is doing a nice – he caught the ball, 10 balls, 117 yards, one touchdown. Harris ran the ball 5 times for 22 yards. The defense had 5 tackles for loss, 3 sacks. Corey Flagg was the leading tackler. With 6:08 remaining in the third quarter, Michigan State took a 17-7 lead. 11-yard touchdown pass from Peyton Thorne to Jalen Naylor. We talked about it on the Big Ten show, but Miami responded with a 10-play, 75-yard touchdown drive to cut it to 17-14. Early in the fourth quarter, Zion Nelson whiffed on the block, the left tackle. Drew Beasley comes in, turnover, ball on the 13-yard line, and that's all she wrote. They stay in the game with a 55-yard field goal to 24-17 with 8:11, but defensively, Michigan State came back, sealed the game with a 39-yard bomb. They need a Central Connecticut this week. There's not a lot of leadership. There's not a lot of direction. I don't see that strong hand, that organization that they need. I see it on Michigan State side in a second-year coach. I really have a lot of concerns about Manny and the consistency. They left plenty of points and yards on the field in the first half. They're making it harder on themselves. They're not playing clean. Lots of penalties. They're trying to rework the offensive line as best they can. That was very inconsistent. I mean, Charleston Rambo's an impact player. They've got some playmakers. They can get things done, but they're not getting it done. They're their own worst enemy. Drops, again, are a big factor. They need more play from Gervin Hall. I thought the secondary gave up some big plays. Lack of a threat in the running game is really limiting in their offense. Miami's offense is one-dimensional. That's what a defense wants. So they couldn't finish in the fourth quarter. Real issue there. So that wasn't a good look. Continuing with bad looks, the Pitt Panthers go down to Western Michigan 44-41. Look, Western Michigan had lost by 34 just 2 weeks ago to Michigan. Now, I'm not saying that Michigan. There you go. Pittsburgh is as good as Michigan. They're not. But they made Caleb Elby, the running back of Western Michigan, looked great. Kenny Pickett turned the football over 3 times. I mean, what was that? This should have been a field day for a veteran quarterback like Kenny Pickett against Western Michigan. Are you kidding me? He passed for 382 yards, 6 touchdown passes against Western Michigan, fumbled away twice, threw an interception. There were numbers, but there were mistakes. What was that? The defense didn't help matters. It allowed 516 yards of total offense. What was that? Ladarius Jackson ran the football well against him, the running back at Western Michigan. Really, really bad performance. Syracuse got it done against Albany, albeit Albany. Now, the Orange hosts Liberty this upcoming week, and it's going to get a lot tougher. Now, the offense needs to run through Sean Tucker more. Sean Tucker is a great player. He is one of the better players that you probably know nothing about because they're a bad team. I think it's real interesting to see how things play out the rest of this year. But this offense works better when they're feeding Tucker and they work play action off of that. This is a run offense to begin with. Penalties, though. Bad teams are bad. Well, we only beat ourselves. We had all those penalties. That's what bad teams do. Syracuse is still a bad team. 16 penalties. Inexcusable. Okay, that's what makes you bad. When you've got good players and you make plays, but you make dumb mistakes, that is, we're really good if we wouldn't make the mistakes. No, you're really bad because you make mistakes. Pressure on the quarterback. Syracuse sacked Rutgers 4 times. They had a good pass rush against Albany. I get that. It's Albany, but getting a little bit better. Neither quarterback played all that well. The run defense has been better than I anticipated. So some positives to build on, but oh boy, hold on against Liberty in their offense. Boston College got it done against Temple. They keep winning games. Now I know it's Colgate, UMass, Temple. They're 0-9 combined. They're without Djokovic. They put points on the board. Run heavy scheme by Frank Signetti. They were 5 for 13 for 34 yards and 1 touchdown and an interception. They're going to struggle with going forward in the league because of their lack of a passing game without Djokovic. I do think they can get better play out of Grosso, just not a lot. Just not much there. Running backs, I thought, were average. Garwell got his first start of the year. We mentioned last week on the show that he really kind of earned more playing time. And I think that this is where they're going to have to lean and become more proficient. The wide receiver tight end, it wasn't much there from the quarterback position. Guys got open. There wasn't a whole lot there. The offensive line are not playing up to their capabilities. The zone blocking scheme, it's taken a little time for the dust to settle there. You didn't have a real clean pocket to throw from. Should have played better relative to the opponent that they were going up against. I thought the defensive line played pretty well against Temple's offensive line. They couldn't run Temple couldn't run the football against them. I think Isaiah Graham Mobley spent the first 2 games of his BC career getting comfortable in that 4-2-5 defense. He had some ups and downs, but he really played well against Temple. So that's a real positive. I thought the secondary played a clean game, did a really good job there. Curious to see where BC takes it without Djokovic in a passing game to mount much. Oh, Virginia Tech. Oh, West Virginia. definitely overrated. Nice win over North Carolina, but I think this is a fact of people say this team's overrated, that team's overrated. Folks, if you're going to have a top 20, you're going to have about a dozen teams that are overrated being ranked in the top 20. Because but if you're going to rank 20, and you got to put numbers in, there's really only about a dozen teams that really are top 20 caliber. Virginia Tech wasn't ready in this game. Disappointing there. You thought they would be. This is a rivalry type game, a regional type game. West Virginia was the better team, the better coach team. Brad Cornelius is getting a lot of heat. Cornelson is getting a lot of heat as coordinator, and rightly so. Really struggling to get anything out of this offense. Virginia Tech looked really bad on defense. They'd given up a ton of yards and 24 points in the first half. However, the second half, they figured some things out. They're getting off the field. They forced 2 turnovers, allowed just 3 points in the final 30 minutes. That did a really good job. They figured things out. They have not figured things out on offense, and it's going to be the undoing of Justin if he can't. They're very patient over there. I don't know how much more patient they can be. Clemson and Georgia Tech had the long rain delay. And I know it messed things up. But if it was only that game, then you could say, okay, I get it. As I said earlier, start the show, Clemson can't run it. They can't throw it. The quarterback's not playing well. The footwork is bad. They've been inconsistent. I realize he's not doing a good job at South Florida, but they miss Jeff Scott in how he's able to get them into better looks offensively. This is a problem. DJU is not connected with his feet. He just offensive lines, both run block and pass protection are not good at all. Man, they've got a whole lot of trouble. I do think the backs have some ability. We talked about Shipley. You got to work some of the RPO stuff. You've got to be able to create some freedom for backs, get some playmakers, ball in the hands of the playmakers in space. You got to simplify things for DJU and just, not a whole lot there, man. Just not a whole lot offensively. Georgia Tech was keeping everything in front, but boy, they couldn't take advantage of it. This looked really, really bad. Defensively, this team is holding it all together and will have to. For Georgia Tech, the quarterback play was pretty good. I thought Yates did a nice job. The backs, they didn't get a whole lot that wasn't there. They didn't make people miss. Pass blocking wasn't real good and pass protection issues. Thought the receivers and tight ends were very average. And drop balls, just nothing there. Offensive line, still not good. Still a problem. Total offense, very, very average. Nothing more. I thought the defensive line played pretty well. We've talked about Clemson's issues, but let's give them some credit. The linebacker play was pretty good. Secondary play was pretty good as well. Give it a solid effort overall for this Georgia Tech defense. I thought that, with Clemson running so much man coverage, Georgia Tech took some shots through the air. McGowan has proven to be a real outside threat. So I'm looking to see if they can work that a little bit more. Wake Forest, Florida State. Let's take it from both angles, shall we? FSU hadn't been 0-3 since Bobby Bowden's first season in Tallahassee in 1976. He's, we all know the stats and the numbers. It's the whys. Is he lost the locker room? We'll kind of see where this goes. Wake Forest first. A little sloppy for Wake. Early penalties, turnovers. You don't see that out of Dave's teams, but they adjusted pretty quickly. I thought it was bounced back by Hartman. He had 4 interceptions and a 22-snap sequence in that Baduk's Mayo Bowl game. He did a really nice job. On his second pass attempt, he had a ball bounce off of him, was picked. He settled down. Really impressive how well he did. Jacory Robinson was quiet, just 4 or 5 targets. The lowest since I think they played Campbell in a blowout. The great thing about this RPO offense that Wake Forest runs is that they're read heavy, and Hartman is really capable of checking to the open receiver, which this game, this Saturday, was A.T. Perry. And they've got viable weapons on the outside, and I think Robertson's going to be fine. The defense controlled Florida State's rushing attack. Joshua Corbin entered the game with back-to-back 100-yard rushing games for Florida State. They limited Corbin to just 27 yards on 7 carries. The entire rushing attack for Florida State averages 3.1 a carry. Florida State was just 1 for 6 on third downs. Really, really key. Got some kickoff issues, kicking the ball out of the bounds that gave some field position for FSU. I know it didn't lead to the outcome, but those are things that can lead to the outcome in future games. I thought Luja Villan earned some playing time at drop-in with Ja'Cory Joins. I thought both were really good defenders and thought played well. A.T. Perry, we talked about how well he played. Shaiba is kicking as good as any in college football right now. So excited about what he's able to do. Good first half, shutout Florida State in the second half. Florida State. No running game. They went away from the running game after it was working so well, and I'm not quite sure what's going on there. I know they got problems with seeing a lot of numbers in the box, but they were very creative in running the football against Notre Dame, and the creativity is not there. They were able to respond after Wake went up 14-0, but mostly non-existent to the third quarter, and the running backs only had 15 carries. Ain't going to get it done. I think they're relying too much on we can do the quarterback, you can work the passing game. I don't know what they're doing with the quarterback situation. Milton's in and Travis is out. They may have lost Travis mentally. I don't know. There's no rhythm being built. The quarterback can't get going. I mean, it's clearly obvious what they're doing when Travis is in versus what Milton is in, at least what the design is. I don't like what they're doing, and I don't like the talent that they're doing with turnovers and penalties continue to be a problem. Again, bad teams have a lot of penalties. 8 penalties, 74 yards. The coordinators are struggling, getting a lot of heat. The key, as I've mentioned before, is he going to lose the locker room? Is that going to be an issue? And I think that's a fair question. And it's going to ultimately determine, Mike is going to get another year because I don't think he's lost the locker room. I don't think there's the toxic nature in the locker room. But I'm going to tell you, he's going to have to finish well in recruiting and sell opportunity in recruiting. And he's going to have to get some things fixed on his coaching staff, including maybe making some changes. And that's always the first step towards your next. I don't see many wins on this Florida State schedule. I don't know that I can sit here and sell you on any right now. There may be 1 or 2. When, where, and how, stay tuned because I hadn't figured that out yet off of what I've seen. Off of an impressive Week 1 performance against Notre Dame, no doubt. I mentioned in the Big Ten Football and Beyond that Northwestern, bad performance Duke dominated them. Oh, it was 30-23, but it was a blowout in which Northwestern flipped it around at halftime, made it closer than it should have been. This is Jeff Harris's first year as offensive coordinator at Duke. He's really doing a good job. I thought he did a phenomenal job this past week. Good game plan. I thought they did a good job working Darnell Harding in the pass game. Matteo Durant is a player that can catch the ball out of the backfield and is a good runner. Now there was a couple of drive-ins, some mistakes. Durant fumbled actually into the end zone. So the team has been aggressive on the ground. That's been the key. I don't think they feel comfortable that they can beat teams through the air that got to run to set up the pass. The defense stepped up. I mean, it was a strength here. They really did a good job of forcing Hunter Johnson to the bench. Struggled there. Did a nice job. So good performance there. Really, really pleased at how well they performed, as much as I was disappointed in how Northwestern performed on their end. North Carolina, Virginia was a game that showed maybe how weak this league is going to be. We've talked about Miami. We know the disaster that is Florida State. We've talked about Clemson struggles. Who the hell else is going to challenge them? Oh, North Carolina, they play no defense at all. Virginia, no defense at all in this game. After being up 28-24 at halftime, Virginia allowed North Carolina to have 5 possessions, and they got 5 touchdowns. Josh Downs had an electric performance. I thought he was as good an offensive performance as we saw this past week. He's got unbelievable receiving yards and playmaking ability. The ground game with Ty Chandler had a really good game, but breaking tackles, missed tackles, that was the story of the game. The offenses were good. The defenses made them look better. I thought it was a good run blocking performance by North Carolina, no question about it. I thought Querin Johnson, the center, and the right tackle, Jordan Tucker, graded out very well. Brennan Armstrong may be the best quarterback in the league. We talked about all the guys that could be really good in the ACC at quarterback. Brennan Armstrong wasn't mentioned an awful lot. To this point, he has been the best. He's thrown the football. He's got dual threat capability. He's grading out as good as anybody in the country as a dual threat quarterback. And he's having to score all the time with that defense. Pass rush is lacking. Just North Carolina is going to struggle defensively. I thought Kamon Rucker and Tamon Fox were the only members of the defensive front who got to the quarterback a little bit. I thought the secondary was carved up by Virginia. Just a mess defensively. Virginia, as I mentioned, Armstrong, grading out well. Number of big-time throws. Best quarterback in the ACC thus far. Where's the running game, though? Armstrong can't do it all. They only managed just 8 yards on the ground prior to the third quarter. They've not seen a traditional run game. It's about Armstrong and nothing else. It's a one-man team. With a veteran offensive line, they should be able to get more push, and they're not getting it done. Defensive woes, man, my goodness. Missed tackles. Coverage breakdowns. No pass rush. It couldn't do anything to stop North Carolina's offense. Coming into this game, North Carolina's offensive line struggled. As I mentioned, they graded out exceedingly well in this game. Just an undisciplined performance by Virginia's defense. No doubt about it. Special teams has got to improve. Dontarius Wicks is a beast. I'm curious to see. NC State had Furman. They were up 38-0 at halftime. They got Clemson this week. We'll get into that in a second. And I think we've got in the Desert OC's got some thoughts in there we're going to get in the mailbag segments. But it was a disappointing performance against Mississippi State, no doubt. And I was curious to see how they would respond. Although I knew they'd win, I wanted to see how they play. Devin Leary was inconsistent the first two games. He played better. It was Furman, but he played better. Tony Gibson, defensive staff, did a better job. It was Furman, but it was a better job. Drake Thomas really did a good job. The running game got on track. I think that's the real key. So as we look ahead to this week's schedule, they don't have the marquee matchups within the league. I'm looking at Missouri BC is an interesting game. I'm curious to see from Coastal Carolina and Miami standpoint. Clemson, NC State's the big game I want to see inside the league. North Carolina, Georgia Tech to some degree. That's a look. The complete schedule, again, BC, Missouri, Clemson at NC State. And we've got a question on that. Duke, Kansas, Florida State, Louisville, Georgia Tech, North Carolina, Miami, Central Connecticut, Pitt, New Hampshire, Syracuse, Liberty, which is Friday night. Again, it'll tell us a little bit about them. Virginia, Wake, Friday night. Virginia Tech's got Richmond. So that's a look inside. Let's take a look. Who looks best in the league right now? I mean, I get it. There's nobody that's really that good. I mean, it's still Clemson because they're the most talented, and Clemson is really look like a team that is not a playoff contender at this point. And I'm going to be honest with you. I don't see anybody, not North Carolina, not Virginia, not Virginia Tech, not BC, not even Wake, and Wake's doing a nice job. I just, it is a mess. The Coastal's a mess. I am curious about this week's game against NC State. I do think NC State's got something to offer. I think they're capable of winning this game, but it's hard to jump on the table for anybody. Go to the mailbag segment. In the Desert OC says, I want to believe NC State can beat Clemson, but I have seen Tim Beck's offenses bogged down. The competition level goes up. What are your thoughts? I'm with you. Look, it's going to be very difficult to move the football and score points against Clemson's defense. So I don't expect a bunch of points. But I got to tell you, to me, it's like, is Clemson's offense going to find some root? I think Clemson's going to win the game because I think they're the better team. They're more talented, and they have more ways in which they can win. But I got to tell you, I don't know that I think that I see a breakout performance by Clemson's offense here. So I think there's a chance, yes. And I'd give it more than just a proverbial, they got a chance. This Clemson's team is struggling. Clemson can be had. They absolutely can be had. If NC State can play a clean game, don't give up cheapies on defense, they'll have their opportunities maybe to flip the field in the kicking game, get a return game, maybe get a play or two off the defense. It's going to be tough, though. Jake says Notre Dame talk is acceptable in ACC football and beyond. Oh, hey, Jake, as I mentioned earlier, Notre Dame and any talk about anybody is acceptable in any podcast. I talk about ACC in ACC football and beyond because I want to break down all the teams and all the games. But you can ask anything about. You can ask SEC, ACC, Big 10, Big 12, Pac 12. You can even throw some NFL if you want there. You're fair game. I just want it's the reason we do this. I do the shows this way is so that I can get through everybody. If I on the national show, for example, I touch on the highlight items. You can't go through every team in every conference. The show would be 4 hours. It just doesn't work. So I break it down this way. It is absolutely not only acceptable, encouraged. In fact, that's where I usually do the Notre Dame breakdowns. How do you see the line of scrimmage battle playing out between Notre Dame and Wisconsin? It feels like both teams' defensive front have the advantage. I agree, except Notre Dame's definitely on the defensive line. Notre Dame's offensive line played a little better last week. But I'm a little concerned about Notre Dame's. I think that Wisconsin's offensive line against Notre Dame's defensive front is going to be interesting because if Notre Dame wins that, which I think they will, then I think they can play a lot of. I think they'll bring a safety down. I think they'll bring Kyle in the box and to defend that run. I don't know that Wisconsin can beat him. I trust Jack Cohn a little bit more, ironically, former Wisconsin quarterback, maybe to make more plays in the passing game. But I see this as both teams that are struggling at the line of scrimmage on offense to establish anything. So, yes, I agree. Both defensive lines have an advantage. Not by a large amount, but by a little bit. I would say which offensive line would have more success. You'd think maybe Wisconsin in the run game. But that's how I see it. I think this is a big game, and if we're going to throw the games of the week in there, and I should throw in Notre Dame, Wisconsin, West Virginia, Oklahoma, Arkansas, A&M are really, really intriguing national games. And Notre Dame as a quasi-ACC team would where I would go with it. So that's a look. Hey, a reminder, I want to tell you folks before we head on out about our great friends at BetDSI. And looking for a place to bet on NFL and NCAA football, BetDSI is an industry leader in football betting and the perfect sports book for both the novice and professional bettors alike. At BetDSI, you can also enjoy live in-game betting. You can bet your favorite team all game long, including prop bets on nearly every play. NFL, college football, BetDSI.com has been paying winners for 20 years. Top rated on betting review sites. They're user-friendly with interface and mobile sites. The fastest payouts. Just simply play, win, and get paid. New members get 100% bonus match using promo code Landry100. That's all caps, Landry 100. That's more than double your money to start winning today. So check that out. BetDSI.com and use promo code Landry100. Hey, we appreciate you joining us, and we hope that you will check us out on our Scout's Eye on Pro Football Show at 4 p.m. Central Time today. Tomorrow, we've got Pac-12 football and beyond at 12 noon Central, and then at 1 o'clock, Big 12 and beyond. We'll break those down like we do these, but Jake and In the Desert, all you guys always know you're welcome to talk anything and ask anything. As you see, we get to it in the mailbag section. So please don't be bashful, and we are just honored to have you. So appreciate you doing it. Spread the word. Enjoy the rest of your day. Talk to you later this afternoon. Talk some NFL. Talk to you more college football tomorrow. Check out LandryFootball.com. Take advantage of the football season sale. The recaps, the in film room analysis are done. We've got a few more touching up of players of the week and so on and so forth. Get the previews ready to go. We're getting after it already as week 4 in college football is straight ahead. Talk to you next time, everybody.